An oral report from Mayor Libby Schaaf regarding the state of the city, and we have 4 individuals who have signed up to speak on this item.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Welcome.
Thank you. To set the tone for the State of the City speech, I'm asking that we start with a very brief video.
If we were to map out Oakland's veins and sketch this city's pulse, we would follow oak tree arteries along streams flowing down the hills into the woods of Diamond Park, till we reached the fingers of Fruitvale and were led up International's spine through the intersection of Chinatown's crimson crosswalks, where we would count each wall adorned in golden dragons, painted symbols of power, strength, and good luck. On the horizon, we would watch the bones of cranes loom like giants guarding the Oakland port, where life is living, artists with spray paint cans molding wood panels into the most magnificent masterpieces. We might end up inside the Allen Bluford Center or Soul Space on the first Friday of any given month with poets and MCs, young alchemists of language echoing the pulse of art, murmuring on telegraph, music overflowing the streets with bodies dancing. Have you ever seen the lake on a Sunday morning? Oakland is a symphony of over 100 tongues. It is an orchestra of punk guitar and rolling bass. Oakland is the sweetest gift. It is Redwood Forest Miracle and art galleries opened for community meetings. It is sunshine over rose gardens and resisting alienation through Ubuntu Theater Project and Culture Strike workshops or Destiny Arts showcases and Dragon School murals. It is queer magic makers and film screenings at Eastside Arts Alliance. Oakland is a festival quilted by those who care for it. Gentle hands that stitch together the personal and the political, that honor the ancestors who came before and those in the making. It is inscribing the names of those whose history is most often left out. It is speaking their stories so we don't forget whose land we stand upon, and which communities were pushed out of it, and who is still here, living, creating, and birthing new forms of being. Oakland is where deep waters dance, where Betty Ono gathers. We create on the axis of a beloved community, from the hills to the flatlands, the rose-pink cascade of the town at sunset. The sunlight paints the edges of downtown gold, turns windows of cafes and galleries into a mosaic. What is Oakland but the most intricate painting? Art in spirit and belly and body, because that's how it's done in this city. And remember all the ways Oakland welcomes me home.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Guillen and council members, for welcoming me here tonight to present the 2018 State of the City Address and explore all the ways Oakland welcomes us home. There are many things that we could cover, but because this address precedes your full business agenda, I will focus on just one topic: how we keep Oakland home. From the atrocity of families living on our streets without the basic human necessity of shelter, to our longtime friends who've been pushed out and priced out of our rapidly gentrifying city, or live in fear that they will soon be, to those of us who are securely housed, but wonder whether the Oakland we fell in love with, its diversity, artists, gritty authenticity, and rebellious spirit, will still be here when all those new condos are filled. Our most pressing work as city leaders today is to keep Oakland home. Home for Rufus, one of our 70-year-old elders who was raised in East Oakland by his grandmother and should be enjoying the comforts of retirement instead of surviving on our streets for the last 20 years. I got to know him when he was one of the first people to move into our first Tough Shed cabin community at 6th and Castro that we opened roughly 9 months ago. He told me how relieved he was that he was able to bring a mattress that he had found into that Tough Shed cabin community, something he could not have done in a traditional emergency shelter. He shared with me how much his back hurt from sleeping on the hard sidewalk, and that this mattress, which was only a little soggy when he found it, was the first thing that had ever given him any relief from that pain. Rufus is one of the successful 63% of the people who have left our Tough Shed pilots to have moved into permanent or transitional housing. Today, Rufus is in our Henry Robinson Rapid Rehousing Center. He has discovered that he enjoys yoga and meditation, and his mattress is still being stored for him. As you all know, we are working so diligently to expand the number of Tough Shed cabin communities, open a year-round emergency shelter at St. Vincent de Paul's, partner with the faith community and other public agencies to offer safe parking sites, and open our second Henry Robinson Rapid Rehousing Center on West Grand, all within the next few months. Together, these could serve nearly half of the estimated 1,902 people that we believe sleep on Oakland's streets on any given night. Clearly, this is not enough. It is our start to triage the crisis. And we recognize that we can't just keep putting beads on a string. At some point, we need to tie a knot at the bottom. And that was the vision of our Housing Cabinet's 17K plan, to create new policies, programs, and funding sources to protect 17,000 Oaklanders from displacement and produce 17,000 new units of housing by the year 2024. In the 2 years since we've launched 17K, we are more than a quarter on the way there to meet all of our 8-year goals. We believe that our stronger renter services and rights, as well as our new acquisition program, have protected 6,861 Oaklanders from displacement. This includes expanding the reach of just cause eviction protections, strengthening Ellis Act and relocation policies, and expanding contracts for tenant services. And while I cannot tell Oaklanders how to vote, I do want to point out that there are several measures, both local and statewide, that could definitely help with our efforts. Props 1 and 2 would issue $4 billion in affordable housing bonds and create ongoing funding for mental health services for our chronically homeless, and local measures like Measure W, a vacant parcel tax authored by Councilmember Kaplan, would also create dedicated funding for homelessness and illegal dumping, as well as Councilmember Kolb's Measure X, a progressive real estate transfer tax, would also increase our resources. Those are the facts. I'm not telling you how to vote. Similarly, we are ahead in our work to produce 17,000 new units of housing by 2024. You can see that we have completed in the last 2 years nearly 1,300 units of housing, and right now, Oakland has an unprecedented nearly 8,700 units of housing under construction as we speak. Additionally, another 79 nearly units of housing approved or proposed in our pipeline. We look like we are in very good shape to reach that 2024 goal, likely ahead of schedule. And we in Oakland recognize that every new unit of housing, even the pricey ones, helps fight displacement, because the people who are moving into our city who can afford these pricey units will no longer have to displace the folks who are here right now and cannot. But what we care about most, what is most important in our work, is expanding our supply of protected, affordable units. Our plan set a goal of helping our nonprofit housing providers produce 2,200 more affordable units by 2024. And we have done that by passing 2 local affordable bond measures, KK and A1, and adopting Oakland's first impact fees and inclusionary policy. We are on our way. And I want to note that this includes both new construction as well as existing but previously unprotected buildings that we have helped nonprofits buy and make affordable for the families who have been living there. But as our plan recognized, this goal of 2,200 is not nearly enough to meet our needs. Even though we have 462 units under construction and another more than 1,300 proposed or approved in the pipeline, we know that we need closer to 4,000 to 5,600 total affordable protected units by 2024 to meet the needs of this city. And that's why we need to transform the system. This is our work as leaders, to not just address the immediate crisis, but to do the harder, more systemic work of getting at root causes and ensuring we prevent these crises and toxic inequalities from just reoccurring over and over again. In Oakland, we don't just triage the crisis for today, we also work to transform the systems for tomorrow. The housing crisis is not isolated to Oakland. Displacement isn't a new form of oppression. We have to transform the system, and we best do it beyond Oakland if we want to best serve Oakland. And that's why I am so excited to serve on CASA, the Committee to House the Bay Area, to develop a regional strategy to solve housing security for the Bay Area once and for all. This group of regional leaders from government, business, labor, philanthropy, and advocacy organizations are exploring a transformational compact of policies and permanent funding streams to ensure that we have a Bay Area for all. Get ready for some fireworks. Not everyone's going to like it. It will force many of our neighbors to finally balance their regional responsibilities with their love of local control. Like when I called out Cupertino a couple weeks ago for welcoming 12,000 new workers to their new Apple headquarters, the same year they approved permits for only 27 new units of housing. An Apple executive actually complained that his workers were having to suffer through 90-minute commutes from their homes in guess where? Oakland. Or last week, when longtime Lafayette City Manager Stephen Falk resigned his post because his conscience could not tolerate his city's destructive NIMBYism. He said, and I quote, "All cities, even small ones, have a responsibility to address the most significant challenges of our time: climate change, income inequality, and housing affordability." Congratulations, Mr. Falk. Our fight against displacement is not just about cranes in the air or unit counts on a spreadsheet. It is also about the economic well-being of our families. And well-being starts with a sense of safety. And while we have much more work to do, it is worth recognizing our 52% reduction in Oakland's gun violence, thanks primarily to our community, social services, and law enforcement partnership that we call ceasefire. 4 years ago, Oakland was ranked the second most violent city in America. Today, we are off the top 10 list. And as I said before, we have much more work to do. We can also recognize historical low rates of unemployment in Oakland. But we will face up to the hard truth, because it's what Oaklanders do, that wealth and income disparities have not closed the way unemployment has. Again, we need systems change. It is hard to plant for tomorrow when a person is searching for food today. And I want to celebrate our collective work as the city's leaders, as we have faced into today's crises and have had the discipline to build for tomorrow. We've had the fortitude and foresight to solve for a future we will not be around to get credit for or even witness. And that's exactly what we are doing with my favorite thing in the world, and that is the Oakland Promise. Oakland thrives best when we invest in our children by giving financial, emotional, and informational supports to all our students, everyone, and their families. From the moment that one of our brilliant babies is born until the moment they walk across that graduation stage, ready to enter a life-sustaining career, we are transforming our educational and community support systems. Today, the Oakland Promise is supporting 300 brilliant baby families and has awarded or contributed to more than 9,000 early scholarships and college savings accounts. And nearly 1,100 Oakland Promise scholars are in college right now with financial support, peer tutors, mentors. It is truly an amazing effort that we have birthed together. And in just its first full year, it is showing its transformational power, with double-digit increases in college enrollment for African American and Latino students. I will end by sharing the story of one of my favorite brilliant baby moms, Tiffany Lescado. Now, Brilliant Baby not only gives babies a $500 college savings account, which studies show make a child 3 times more likely to go to college and 4 times more likely to graduate from college. But we also offer families immediate financial support and financial coaching. This coaching is one of the things that helped Tiffany pursue her long-held dream of starting a workers' cooperative of Pacific Islanders to preserve and prosper from their cultural heritage of lei-making. Tiffany took advantage of another transformational initiative that we recently started in Oakland, our Kiva Oakland Zero Interest Loans. Now, Kiva is all about disrupting the currently exclusionary commercial banking system that is designed to lend only to those who already have money, keeping wealth where it is. Kiva looks at character and social contribution, not credit scores, in making its lending decisions. And that's why they knew that Tiffany was such an incredible investment. In Oakland, Kiva Oakland has helped more than 700 small entrepreneurs get access to zero-interest loans, millions in zero-interest loans, and I'm very proud to say that 90% of those entrepreneurs are entrepreneurs of color, and 70% are women. Talk about disruption. So this is our work to keep Oakland home, addressing our shelter crisis to keep Rufus home, and changing our systems of education, community support, and access to capital to keep Tiffany and her 3 beautiful, brilliant babies home in Oakland, where everyone is welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mayor Schaaf. Appreciate the State of the City update to the council. At this time, I'm going to call on the public speakers. Madam City Clerk.
Certainly. I have Mr. Gene Hazard, who has signed up, Asada Olubala, Oscar Wright, and John Jones III. Please come forward in any order.
Okay, love life. So this was supposed to be the state of the city, right? And I knew he wasn't going to talk about black people. So let me tell you from your equity report, the state of African Americans here in Oakland. And I'm not going to be able to finish in 2 minutes. Economic opportunity. African Americans have the lowest numbers of business owners. African Americans have the lowest average contractor amount. African Americans have the highest number of youth neither working nor in school, 16 to 24. African Americans have the highest unemployment rate. African Americans have the lowest median household income. African Americans have the highest percentage of individuals living at or below the poverty level. As African Americans have the highest number of students who are chronically absent. I'm not going to deal with that when I want to go to housing. Under your equity report, African Americans have the highest number of households who do not own their own homes. African Americans have the highest number of loan applications denied by financial institutions. African Americans have the highest percentage of renters, households spending more than 30% of their income on rent. They have the highest homeless rate. They have the highest eviction rate. They have the highest number of people who have been pushed out of Oakland. They have the highest number of homeowners who do not own their homes free and clear. They have the highest number of individuals living in housing units without complete plumbing facilities. They have the highest numbers most likely to have high speed. I'm not going to deal with that. They got a whole lot of stuff dealing with black folks in this city. And we're supposed to be celebrating. And you will not deal with anything related to African Americans. You want to use that term, people of color. And so, like I said, I'm just going to keep coming in and bringing you the facts. This is from the equity report.
Thank you, ma'am.
That the city paid for. Don't thank me, because this is serious. When we get a report from the mayor that makes it seem like we're celebrating culture. We're celebrating art. There's nothing for black people to celebrate as it relates to economics, housing, education,
Do you
health.
have someone who wants to cede you time?
No, I don't need this seated time stuff. Okay, I'm free to speak whenever I want.
Thank you,
and you
ma'am.
can call a police officer to come get me.
Thank you.
I have no respect for this. What that mayor just did is an insult to black people under the circumstances of what we're dealing with in this city. Come on, get me, sir. It's a disgrace
like,
that a mayor can
Mr.
get up here and
Wright-
ignore
sounds
the
like
plight
Mr.
of
Wright
black
is ceding
people.
you time.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Next speaker, please.
No respect for black people in this city. And all we're going to do is paint, dance, and sing.
And I'm Oscar Wright again, 95-year-old American man who's proud to be black, resident of Oakland for 58 years, taxpayer for 56 of those 58 years, family born and bred here, part of my family born and bred here, stripped of verbal subterfuge, by design left at the bottom of the ladder. My kids went to school at Oakland in public schools, had to fight all the way to get my kids to school. We have a situation here where it's true we're getting a lot of the downtown. Anybody can see the construction that's going on here in this place. Anybody can see that. And we talk about billions, I said trillions of dollars worth. I'm one of the first 4 men since you started to work on the Bay Rapid Transit back in 1967. 2 Italians, a Jew and me. My crew was mostly black. We never missed a schedule. Nobody ever had to go behind us to do anything. And now you don't hardly see a black person out there working on that. And then the University of California and the Peralta School District there closed on the skills center at 3100 San Pablo back in 19. I know you can cut those right now if you want to. I know what you want to do. Cut them off if you want. But I'm telling you the facts about the thing. If we're going to do something to make this thing right, we talk about all. We talk about everything. We're going to make it for all of the people. Yes, we have the Oakland Promise. There's no doubt about that. But there's some snares in that, too, that I have not been able to meet with anybody, not even the mayor, over the Promise thing, because I can see some snares in there where you got a two-tier thing there where it should be better. But you can't meet with anybody. But I can talk with the President of the United States. That's amazing to me. That's amazing to me.
Mr. President Pro Tem Magman, I will yield my time to Mr. Wright.
You could wrap up, Mr. Wright.
If we really want to do something about that, we talk about equity here. I think, and I mentioned earlier, where the city had the opportunity to train some of our people who live here and who put you in office here. And it said here the Oakland Private Industry Council had to do the job that you all were supposed to do. They now beginning to pick people up and realize that initiative can't work, you know. Yes, you got a lot of building going on here. Where's the open space? Where the equity in the different sections of the city? Where the equity in the schools? I was there Saturday at what they call the equity, putting the equity at the center of the forum. They're still talking about the equity thing. Equity, and some of the people say, I don't really understand what equity means. It means equality. Level the damn playing field. That's all we're asking for. Level the playing field. Give us the same opportunity that you give everything. For hundreds of years, we black folk and poor white folks have been the backbone of this United States for the most part. We've done all the work, paid all the tax, fought all the wars, and done all the suffering. And you see the same thing going on here now. And you tell us, we ought to be satisfied, And most of our kids here come out of school, too many of them, I won't say most of them, too many of them come out of school with a diploma. Can't read, can't write, can't spell, don't know their multiplication tables, and have no marketable skills. And we talk about equity and what we're doing to make Oakland great. We're going to have to do what we have to do to make this thing great. And I'll tell you what, one thing, you can put this in a pipe and smoke it. America is dead. Well, the American system that we know is dead. Is dead. It's just a matter of time. It's a matter of time. We can do everything we want to do. You've never seen where the white man and the white woman is split like they split now. We divided everywhere we go. Everybody got their look in every corner there, and nobody wants to come together, and nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to sit and talk about it. Put it on the table there. We want to talk and come down here and say 2 minutes. 2 minutes. And I've been, 7 of us brothers served in World War II in the Korean War. 6 of my brothers buried in military graves. My oldest son retired with over 25 years in the Army Reserve. And everywhere we went in the world, they recognized us as American citizens. We come back here, we had to go to the back of the bus. And that's where we are here in this place here today.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. Next speaker, please.
For the record, my name is John Jones III. I actually needed to gather myself. This report was probably the most depressing thing I've seen in a long time. I don't understand why every time Sister Asada clearly points out the issues that impact the black community. She's here consistently, but I don't even get a sense that there's any real acknowledgement in these issues, which leads me to believe when we talk about the state of this city, there's 2 things that comes to mind for me. The first is perspective, and that means 2 things for me. Perspective is, A, how long we have been in Oakland. The Oakland I grew up in was an unapologetically black city. And let's be clear, what gave Oakland its global reputation was black people. Whether it's the Black Panthers, whether it's our athletes, whether it's hip hop, our slang, our lingo, black people did this, and it was a culture that all races benefited from. So why are we so resistant to name anti-black racism? A second aspect of privilege is this. I was having lunch at a good friend's house who live up in the hills. And when you're in the hills, if you look down at the flatlands look much different from the hills. It looked real nice up there. You have no idea what East Oakland looks like unless you're actually on the ground. People like me, I'm on the ground. I know what I see every day. And I promise you this, I seen none of this growing up in the 1980s when we was the murder capital of this country, when we was known as crack of Cokeland, the city of dope, couldn't be saved by John the Pope, if you know anything about Too Short. How come back then we didn't have people living unsheltered and homeless? How come back then we was not grappling with a crumbling infrastructure or illegal dumping? And how come now we got people moving to this city, my home, who were scared to death to come into the city just 5 years ago? I guess some of us went to a words parade and fell in love with this city, huh? Something wrong with that. And we got to stop with the nonsense. Because at the end of the day, I'm tired of seeing people who like me unsheltered. I'm tired of seeing our children murdered, suffering. And we're acting like this don't happen. So we got to stop this talk. I'm going to walk away because, I've never been disrespectful. But I'm speaking from the heart right now. I love this city, and I'm tired of people suffering in this city. I'm tired of it because what it does, it creates apathy, and it makes it difficult for people to even believe this process is possible. This room should be packed right now, but it's an indication that people don't trust either one of y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Change that narrative and change it right now.
Next speaker, please.
For the record, Gene Hazard, go to cleanoakland.com. So 4.1 was dubbed Update on the State of the City. I didn't hear anything what the mayor just spoke about, the state of the city. This was a cultural arts presentation. We look at all the building that's going on in this city. And I ride around and I see where all the cranes are, but I see very few, and some of, if any, people who are working there that looks like me. Mr. Wright was modest. This man, 95 years of age, for 7 years out of his own pocket, thousands of children in the Oakland public school system, many of whom have gone on to college. But he gets no support from the city council here. None of you, including the mayor, has even gone out to what he does at Allen Temple. For 7 years, he's dug into his own pocket. And each year, there are about 1,000 students. And when we come before you to talk about concerns about black folks, y'all look the other way. When Councilmember Brooks tried to put forth a training program, y'all voted it down. Go around and look at all this development that's going on in this town. I bet you can't even count 50 black folks who are employed. Not because we don't have the skills, because there are a lot of journey personnel out there, because we're always talking about training, apprenticeships. But you look the other way every time it comes around economics when black folks come. But we could talk about cultural arts, because we like to dance and play music. Ms. Olabala comes up every week, every other week, and at committees, and talk about the crisis in the black community. But y'all don't want to address that. We could talk about immigration. We could talk about equity in languages, but when it comes to black folks, you remain silent. And this, whatever she presented, was no state of the city. It says an update on the state of the city.
If you could wrap up, Mr.
There's
Hazard.
a crisis in the black community, and you don't even want to recognize it.
Thank you.
From homelessness to jobs. Thank you.
That completes the public speaker portion of this item. I'm going to turn to the queue of council members. I have Councilmember Gallo, followed by Councilmember Kaplan. Councilmember Gallo. Councilmember Kaplan.
Thank you very much. I just had a couple of questions. One on the Tough Sheds homeless solution. There's been some confusion in terms of the description of it as voluntary, but I've been working with some homeless folks who've reached out for help to say that when they volunteered to go into it, they were turned away and were told that people cannot volunteer to go into it. And so I wanted to check on that because it seems that, you know, the public says they're mad because it's not voluntary. You said it is voluntary, but then when people go to try to volunteer, they're turned away.
The word voluntary was not in my speech, but I'm happy to address your question.
So can people volunteer for it?
The way that the Tough Shed program is working, it is geographically based. So the priority is given to people in the invitation zone. But I'm happy, you probably want to delve into that issue more. I know that you actually have a homelessness, a more thorough homelessness report coming to the next committee. The report was just published, so some of your questions might be answered in that, and I'm sure you'll have an opportunity to discuss it thoroughly in the committee hearing that's coming up next week.
Okay, and I wanted to thank Mr. Wright, who's come tonight and many nights to share many important things. Just one of his brief questions was that he's trying to get in touch with the Oakland Promise personnel and said he couldn't. Who is the contact person for that?
I'd say right now probably Maggie Crocher, but I've already texted the Oakland Promise staff and told them to reach out to you, Mr. Wright. As you know, I've actually personally honored you with an award several years ago, and I'm very excited to meet with you about the Oakland Promise and answer any questions that you might have. And again, I've already put out the request to staff to contact him directly.
So I'm sorry, who's the staffer is? Who?
Probably Maggie Crocher or David Silver will be in contact with Mr. Wright.
And they're in your office or they're at the nonprofit?
David Silver is in my office. Maggie Crocher is with the Oakland Promise. David Silver is the Director of Education to the Mayor. Maggie Crocher works for the Oakland Promise.
Thank you. And then just one last question. In the video that you showed, you described First Fridays as music overflowing into the streets.
Well,
and
those were not my words. That is a poet who wrote a poem, and that film was made actually by the Rainin Foundation as part of their package to attract a national arts funding conference to Oakland. So this was shown by permission, but they actually produced that, and the poet who wrote the poem was portrayed in the film.
Sure. So as you probably know, there was a big problem this summer about police targeting of Naj Smith from Rich City Rides, who was engaged in music flowing the streets with his bicycle on First Friday, and a lot of concern that he was being arrested for bicycling while black. Has that been corrected? Has there been some directive given to the police to not arrest people for music in those contexts?
Yes, Councilmember Kaplan, as you know, much of that was addressed prior to our receiving your many letters, and so yes, those issues have been addressed. And we are continuing to work on the issues of racial profiling and racial bias in policing, which continues to be an issue that plagues Oakland and every city in America. Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Gallo, have you in the queue.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for your presentation, Mayor Wright. For me, it's representing East Oakland and having the experience of living in East Oakland for all my life, just about. It continues to be even a greater challenge today. Specifically, the unemployment, the underemployment is a challenge. If you look at the business development on International, Foothill, and so forth, it's greatly challenged. And so I guess the question that I have for you, or the request that I would have for you, is one is that the City of Oakland needs to provide business assistance. I mean, we're going through the BRT project, and certainly we're learning a lot about what is happening in East Oakland, because unless I have a job, I cannot take care of my family, I cannot take care of my neighborhood and community. So for me, it's the number one issue is the underemployment and the lack of employment. And certainly I would hope that your administration and through your efforts, we was at the next state of the mayor's address, that we would address that issue. And unless we provide the employment and training services, because when I look at the data, even when it comes to education, the schools in those neighborhoods, the students are failing because they have the lowest scores in part of the city. So I would ask that we give special assistance, give attention to East Oakland, the business corridor, to make sure that we can create jobs to be able to house our neighbors. Otherwise, it's not going to change. Because of the reality that I see on a weekly, daily basis, some of the folks that are in these encampments don't have anything to do. They lost their job. They cannot afford their apartment. So therefore, we choose different ways to live. And the most troubling is when you see children in some of these sites. And so anyways, I would like to work with you in terms of addressing that issue specifically in East Oakland and be able to elevate it and create the employment and training opportunities that we can, make sure that our people continue to be productive in East Oakland. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I hope you did hear that I did state in the speech that while we have historical low rates of unemployment, we will face up to the hard truth that wealth and income disparities have not closed the way employment has. So I was trying to underscore the point that you've made. The example of Kiva Oakland is one example of an innovative way that we're trying to build wealth as well as employment opportunities. I will make a shameless plug for the Oakland Lay Collective, the business that I was trying to highlight by profiling Tiffany Lascato, is located in East Oakland. So please support it for all your celebration needs.
Thank you, and I do appreciate that. And again, it's the saying that it's not about what you say, but what you do. And certainly East Oakland has been challenged for a number of years. And certainly within this city council, within this city, that has not been a priority. All you have to do is drive down International, and you're in a whole different city of Oakland. So anyways, thank you. Look forward to work.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Seeing no other members in the queue, I want to thank the mayor for delivering her charter-required address to the council, to the city council. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you, council members, and I look forward to more work ahead.